Hi guys, there have been some interesting developments in relation to Manchester United's summer transfers, as Mason Mount is reportedly heavily linked to Manchester United for a deal that's potentially between 60 to 85 million pounds from Chelsea. So, pretty much everyone's talking about it, so I think might as well have a discussion about whether or not this transfer is going to be good for both Chelsea and Manchester United. My personal feeling is that this could be a positive development for both the player and for both clubs. We all know that Chelsea need to sell some players. Maybe not so much Mount, because as we've heard from a lot of Chelsea fans, they do love Mason Mount and they don't want to be selling, a sort of golden boy of their club to another, especially to a top four rival. Let's be real here. Chelsea would love to be in our position, third place in Premier League, Champions League football, and potentially challenging for various titles, including, the FA Cup, on Saturday. So I think the last thing you want is to strengthen your rival, at least in terms of perception, in, giving away a valuable player to them. So in that regard, I do understand, the sentiments, even though Mason Mount didn't really set the season alight, at least for this season. He's a good player. I have my reservation about him as, as an English player in general. They do tend to flatter to deceive. But of course he's only 24. He's younger than Marcus Rashford. So if we, it's, from Chelsea's perspective, it's like it's basically like selling someone like Marcus Rashford to, say, a Newcastle or, Arsenal, someone who's going to be challenging for similar positions. So that's not great. But how about from Manchester United? I personally think that he could be a valuable player for us. I think if I were Ten Hag, I would be looking at this particular transfer as a sort of a replacement for Eriksen. So, of course, Eriksen came to us for free, and that's really good. But we all know Eriksen probably only has a couple of years of legs left in him, and he's going to move on at some point. So and also, he's also defensively suspect. So people who say that Mason Mount probably can't play as one of the pivots, then probably look at Eriksen and say the same thing could be said about him. But I think he's working well this season. And of course, I don't think Mason Mount is going to set the world alight at Old Trafford. But he's going to be a pretty good squad player, in my opinion. Someone who can start games. I think he will start games if we were to buy him for like £60 million, which I do think is not going to be a final price. The final price is probably going to be nearer £85 million, which is insane. But the transfer market is insane, and if Manchester United really do have £200 million to spend this summer, as per recent reports, then I'd say this would be a decent investment of that significant chunk of that transfer budget. Not a great investment, as is always with the case of buying English players. Nothing against local players. If anything, it's probably something that all English clubs should aspire to do, right? They do have regulations saying that they need to have a certain percentage or certain numbers of, local players. And I think that's one of the reasons why United have been linked to quite a lot of English players, given that, quite a lot of our English players are going to leave. I think Harry Maguire is probably going to be leaving. Phil Jones has already left, and God knows what is happening to Mason Greenwood. He might go on loan. He might be sold. So there is a need for Manchester United to add more English players in, and that's just how the regulations and stuff work. And of course, if you can get someone decent from a top 4 rival, that's all the better. And personally, I'm not too excited about this development. It'll be great. It'll be a great addition. And also, I think, from Chelsea's perspective, right, I do not think Mason Mount is indispensable. He's not, for all the talks about him being, the new Lampard or whatever, he's not that level yet, and he probably never will be. Like, look at his numbers. He's not nearly as impressive as Lampard, and not to mention that Lampard is more like a sort of a box-to-box player who is more reliant on strength and stamina, whereas Mason looks a little bit lightweight, to be honest, which is also one of the concerns when it comes to playing it as one of the double pivots. He might play in the attacking midfielder position, but then you'll question what to do with Bruno Fernandes, who is most certainly going to be, the starting attacking midfielder. So, but you don't pay £80 million for a bench player. So Mason Mount is going to be starting games if he were to be bought. So the way I see it, he's going to be a midfield cover. He's going to be playing in the Eriksen position. So it's a weird one, which is why I'm bringing this up in this video. For all the talks about Chelsea selling their golden boy, the proper Chelsea to Manchester United. It's also about Manchester United. Why are they making this move? Apart from Mason Mount being an English player and all that, and all the English hype. I mean, from Mason Mount's perspective, is this a good move? I think it depends on whether he's going to be able to establish himself as a starter. Obviously, he will be confident about that, considering he does not necessarily have a lot of competition. I think that's one of the reasons why he's probably choosing Manchester United over other clubs like Liverpool. Okay, you can say that Liverpool also has a midfield problem, but let's be real, without the injuries and all that, their midfield is still better than ours. Whereas Arsenal, it goes without saying that Arsenal does have quite a lot of quality in midfield. Whereas United clearly has a shortage of at least covers for midfield. We have Casemiro, Eriksen, and Bruno, and that's it. And the others, they're always injured or stuff. And of course, Sabitzer is a good player, but he's probably going to be leaving. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because he's okay, but he's at best a bench player, and he's 29, and you might as well use that money for someone younger like Mason Mount. But of course, Mason Mount is he's not been fit this season, not fit enough. I think he has a sort of a hip injury or something like that. And, I don't know. I mean, he could be a good player, but, it would be interesting, right? If only we had, the new owners already, then, obviously we'll have a clearer transfer plan in place, and then the Mason Mount deal would make more sense. As things stand, I think spending 80 to 85 million pounds on an English player who has potential, but not exactly a superstar, you're paying superstar money for that. So it's a weird one. So let me know, what do you think about this deal? Is Mason Mount going to be, our new Mason, so to speak, in terms of impact? In terms of, obviously, Mason Greenwood was great, but he's probably not going to play for Manchester United again. So we have to move on with that, at least for now. And Do you think Mason Mount is going to be a successful signing? Do you think he's going to even to be signing? You know, for all we know, he could be signing a new deal at Chelsea. It could be his way of, could be something going on between Chelsea and the player anyway. You know, ultimately, they are the ones who are going to decide what to do. And do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's a good deal for the clubs and the player? Let me know. That's all I have today. Thank you for watching, and talk to you very soon.